Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special edition, episode 2 of Bookworm's Book Corner, where today we are going to be talking about a worldwide phenomenon that has changed the world that once started as a webcomic. So, before we get started, get into your comfy sweater, grab a mug of your drink of choice, and let's talk turkey. So about 2 years ago, I began my webtoon journey, ironically because of Wattpad. Wattpad, for those who don't know, is a online place where people, hello Licky, thank you my love, where people can post their stories for free and then people get to read them. Now, a couple of my favorite Wattpad stories have actually been published, and we'll probably get a review on here eventually after I'm able to find them. Yikes. But until then, let's talk about why that relates to what we're reading tonight. Thank you, Licky. So, would you like to be on camera, sweetheart? Oh, I know. Say hello, world. He's like, my mommy loves to read to me. Yes, she does. Mwah. Thank you, Licky. So, my friends and followers, here's what's really cool about Wattpad. Wattpad has ads, and one of the ads was for something called Webtoon. Webtoon is also a place where people can put their creations online and people can read them for free. The only difference is that instead of short stories, we have comics. So, I got an ad for a webcomic called Lore Olympus, and I knew right off the bat I was going to need to read it because I'm a huge fan of Greek mythology. Now, Greek mythology is really important in all of history, and we're going to talk about why that is in a minute. But let's just say this. In 2 years, I have consumed over 100 different webcomics. And a bunch of them have actually been published, including dun dun dun. So this is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. And she is an amazing webtoon comic author, illustrator. This is just chef's kiss. Now, my fiance... I know, Licky, you want to make your appearance, I know. So, Webtoon has this posted still because it is still ongoing. This is only volume 1, and why we're doing this episode tonight is because volume 2 is coming out this Tuesday. I know. Am I going to buy it? Oh, yeah. Anything I can do to support an amazing author. So, before we read the back of this, let's talk about the retelling of what the myth is. So there's multiple versions of the Hades and Persephone myth. The two that I'm going to talk about today is a mixture of the one that I heard, and I'm going to post the link of this down in the comments, so that way if you are ever interested in doing some research, you can. Now, when I was told about Hades and Persephone, I was told two things. One, Hades and Persephone is one of the beloved love stories of all time. Number 2, Hades and Persephone talk about how the seasons change. And for those who are history buffs, understand that ancient Greeks used the gods and goddesses as a way to tell and explain things that go on in their natural lives. Oh, the sea's rough. Poseidon must be angry. Really bad lightning storm. Zeus must be angry. Demeter, the person or goddess who controlled nature, must be angry. So that's why our crops didn't grow. So Hades and Persephone have been around for a very long time. There are many retellings of this story. And we're probably going to be talking about multiple retellings eventually on this channel. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. But here is the myth. So Hades is the brother of Zeus, the brother of Poseidon, and the god of the underworld. And Persephone is the goddess of spring, the daughter of Demeter. One of the versions is that Hades fell in love with Persephone. Now, some of the versions say he kidnapped her. Some of them say she went willingly. In the link that I'm going to post tonight, it says that he did kidnap her. He traveled above ground to pursue her when she was gathering flowers in the field. And he saw her and instantly fell in love with her. He told his brother for help, and so one day the ground split underneath Persephone and she was swallowed into the underworld, where he made her his wife and queen. The myth says that she was unhappy at the beginning, but after some time she came to love him and they live happily together. And in all the myths, and this is an absolute true fact, Hades is known to be the only one that stayed committed to his wife. Zeus and Poseidon were not always the most faithful brothers and men in the world, and so Hades was known to be the most faithful, or at least that's the version and versions that I know. Now, the other version that explains about spring is that in this version, Demeter was present when Persephone was kidnapped. So Persephone was gathering flowers called, let me pull up how to say the word, I believe they're called narcissus. Basically, they're like daffodils. And Demeter was angry. Rightfully so. Her daughter was kidnapped. So, what ends up happening is she's traveling the world to find her daughter. And she can't find her. And then she finds out she's in the underworld. Now, at this time, Persephone has eaten the seeds of a pomegranate. And in Greek lore, if you ate something that belonged to, I guess, like your captor or your husband, you would have to return there. So she would have to return to the underworld. Now, as I said before, the Greek mythologies were used to explain things. So this version was used to explain winter turning into spring. Demeter was devastated. Things began to die. And so what they did was they had Persephone come up for 2/3 of the year to be with her mother, where she would bring back spring and the summer and the crops would grow. But once winter hit, that's when she would go into the underworld and she would be with her husband. Now, Lore Olympus is a retelling of the classic myth, but this is one where, at this point in time at least, it is a love story. So let's talk about it. This is the cover. Like I said, this is beautiful. Absolutely love it. So on the back it says, scandalous gossip, wild parties, and forbidden love. Witness what gods do after dark in this stylish and contemporary reimagining of one of the mythology's best known stories from the creator of Rachel Smythe. Persephone, a young goddess of spring, is new to Olympus. Her mother, Demeter, raised her in the mortal realm. But after Persephone promises to train as a sacred virgin, she is allowed to live in the fast-moving, glamorous world of the gods. When her roommate Artemis takes her to a party, her entire life changes. She ends up meeting Hades and feels an immediate spark, and with the charming yet misunderstood ruler of the underworld. Now, Persephone must navigate the confusing politics and relationships that rule Olympus, while figuring out her own place and her own power. The edition of Smith's original Eisner-nominated webcomic Lore Olympus features a brand new exclusive short story and brings the Greek pantheon into the modern age in a sharply perceptive and romantic graphic novel. So, my fellow followers, this is volume 1. And what's cool, hello, sweets. See, my cats do come eventually. This volume has episodes 1 through 25. So on Webtoon, how they do it is every week they have different episodes. So this is the webcomic Morgana and Oz. This is one that I'm reading right now. And so as you can see, they have episodes. And so you can read the episodes for free until you get to the Fast Pass, where you have to buy coins. And then after you buy coins, then you can read those before they are published the following week. So, Lore Olympus got republished yesterday, so the newest episode comes out last night. Got to read that. Amazing. So let's talk about why I love this book. First of all, can we just talk about the cover? Can we just talk about how beautiful this is? How thick it is? It's amazing. Now, let's confide into my notes and let's talk about some really good things. So, as I said, this was originally found on Webtoon, and the fact that you can support the author who worked so hard on this by buying a physical copy is awesome. I'm always going to support buy physical copies to support the author, and I'm more than happy to do so. And like I said, this Tuesday, Volume 2 is coming out. You can pre-order it on Amazon. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is what it's going to look like. Volume 2. You can see what that looks like right there. Hello, isn't it beautiful? And they already have, get ready for this, Volume 3's cover out. And Volume 3 is going to be released in October. So this is what Volume 3 looks like. I'm obviously going to pre-order these. And I'm going to put the links down below so you can do the same if you are interested. Now, there are a few things we're going to talk about here. This is not a child's book. So when people think of webcomics, or graphic novels even, they think, oh, it's just for kids. They think of Baby Mouse or Boone, which is the telling of like a ghost. I remember reading those in elementary school. This is definitely not it. It has, I don't want to say spice, but it has some very romantic moments. The art depictions of certain things are very interesting and probably definitely not for kids. So I do not recommend this book for children under the age of, I'm going to say, 16, 17, 18, only because the stuff that can be inappropriate. Now, let's talk about the one thing I really admire the author for. So, the author, Rachel Smythe, wrote the, like a trigger warning. Now, this comes up on Webtoon a little differently, so I was wondering how they were going to show it, in the actual physical copy. So on the banner for the Webtoon version, they have like a trigger warning. This episode has blah, 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 blah. Reader be advised. Well, Rachel wrote, Lore Olympus regularly deals with, and so trigger warning, themes of physical and mental abuse, sexual trauma, and toxic relationships. Some of the interactions in this volume may be distressing for some readers, so please exercise discretion and seek out the support of others if you require it. So again, I would probably not recommend this book for anyone under the age of 18. I know some people who are in high school have read this because I've heard some students talking about it, and I'm like, interesting. But as an adult, this is definitely more of an adult book. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a great book either. And some adults are a little nervous about reading graphic novels because, like, oh, they're for kids. So something else that I really appreciate is this is a beautiful retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. Again, as I told you before, the myth goes either he kidnapped her or it happened. In the beginning of this story, it does have a good retelling, but they genuinely fall in love with each other. There's no hatred at all. Hades and Persephone, the spark is right there, immediate. And it is just beautiful how Rachel retells this story. Another thing is how beautiful, how absolutely stunning the artwork is. Let me pull up a panel here. So you can definitely tell in the beginning of the webcomic, her art style changes, and that's not a bad thing. So compared to, and this is not a spoil, let me pull up a picture. So you have, this is Persephone in episode 1. Okay, and so compared to, let me pull up what she looks like in a later chapter. She's just another really cool thing that I never really get to see in a lot of books. Persephone's plus sized, and I absolutely adore that because as someone who is a bigger woman, as a bigger person, that's not really shown. They always say that, in order to be like a god or a goddess, they had to be skinny and beautiful. And Persephone is curvy and beautiful. And it's just, I appreciate that so much, seeing someone that looks like me. So, like, for example, here is a picture of Artemis and Persephone, and you can see her art style somewhat changed, and this is halfway through the book. So, another thing I want to just quickly talk about is this book can be found so many different places. If you just want to try it out first, I definitely recommend going on Webtoon and reading it. If you are interested in something like that, Webtoon opens up the door for a lot of really cool webcomics. Another one that I'm going to talk about on this channel eventually is called Let's Play. It is the whole inner nerd part of me is just going, yes, yes, yes. But there are so many different webtoon comics online that you can read. But if you are interested in buying a physical copy, this version was from Barnes and Noble and it was $27. But in this version, there's also an amazing short story that was not in the original comic that I got to read, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. So, if you are interested in amazing artwork, a beautiful retelling of Hades and Persephone, and always looking to expand your horizons in reading, I totally recommend Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. Her Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are also on the back as well, and I'm going to include those down there, so if you'd like to follow her, you're more than welcome to. I know I already do. So again, if you are interested, please look for this book. I love it to death, and I cannot wait for Volume 2 to come out this Tuesday. Alright, everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great night, and I will see you on Friday when I post my next video on our next book we're talking about. Bye, everybody.